Okay. I count three members of the committee here. How many are online? 2, 3, and 2 is 5, which I think we have a committee of 10. That's right, but she does count towards a quorum, right? I believe she does. I think she counts towards, oh, hey, Rick. Were you also trying to get a parking spot? So which members do we have online? I just want to make sure we have a quorum. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, we're good. Thank you. All right, with that being said, I'd like to call the March 1st, 2022 Environmental Resources Committee to order. We'll start with item number 2, public comment, 15-minute limit. Do we have anybody sign up for general public comment? No. Nope. All right.
Andy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Is there anybody on the telephone that is signed up for public comment at this public comment period?
No one has indicated to me, but if they would like to at this time, they could go ahead and unmute themselves. Okay.
That's long enough for me. Moving on, number 3, approval of February 1st, 2022 committee minutes. Motion by Supervisor Drabek to approve. Second by Supervisor Seefeld. Any further discussion?
Just one question, if I may.
Go ahead, Supervisor Drabek.
Do I have to pick up this mic thing?
Yeah, so people online can hear you.
Can you hear me? Might have to come off standby. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Weren't you here last time towards the end? Because you were excused, but you were gone.
In regards to your question, I was not present at all as I was recovering from COVID.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you came late. I'm sorry.
I was not. Thank you for your concern, though.
Yeah, no problem.
Sure. All right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Moving on to 4, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, or resolution. A, public hearings, review, possible actions, and possible recommendations to the county board for its consideration, county zoning changes. 4A, 1 through 4, what we have in front of us today. We will now proceed with opening the public hearing. I'd ask everybody, if you have not done so already, to please mute your phone. The Marathon County Environmental Resources Committee is now meeting a public hearing on the location, plans, specifications, and purpose of the following projects. Connie Johnson on behalf of Donald F. Bohe, General Agricultural to Rural Estate, Town of Spencer. Tim Vreeland on behalf of Kenneth P. Lake and Mary D. Lake, Revocable Trust, Farmland Preservation to Urban Residential, and Farmland Preservation to General Agriculture, Town of Eau Plaine. Corey Arndt on behalf of Oliver W. and Arlene D. Hoppy, General Agriculture to Rural Estate and Rural Residential to Rural Estate, Town of Easton. And 4, to reopen the public hearing on text amendment changes to the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County Chapter 17 Zoning Code. The members of the committee, just like to introduce them, even if they're not necessarily all here at this time, would be myself, Jake Langenhan, who's the chair, Sarah Geld, who is our vice chair, Supervisor Bill Conway, Supervisor Rick Seefeld, Supervisor Alan Drabek, Supervisor Randy Fiefrick, Supervisor Dave Overbeck, who are all members of the Marathon County Board of Supervisors, and Marilyn Bend, our Wisconsin Towns and Village Association rep, and Rodney Roskopf, FSA representative. Also present are Lori Miskimans, our Conservation Planning and Zoning Director, Paul Daigle, our County Conservationist, Robert Hoffman, who is our Land Use Technician, Nicole Delaunay, Administrative Coordinator, and Andrew Lynch, our Transportation Planner. The establishment of the ERC is required by law for purposes of administration of county ordinances and land conservation programs. This committee must follow state laws and local ordinances as written. This committee cannot change or ignore any part of the ordinances or state laws, but must apply the laws as written. The purpose of this committee is to hear and decide on proposed ordinances and ordinance revisions, rezoning petitions, and provide direction on land conservation and planning programs. The ERC will provide a full and fair hearing on any person or to any person applying for a rezone petition. A taped recording is being made of the meeting, which will assist with preparation of written hearing minutes. The committee is interested in hearing all pertinent comments and questions. Each hearing will be opened by reading the public notice and allowing staff to present a staff report, including evidence from any on-site inspection. The applicant and anyone wishing to testify will be sworn in and allowed to give testimony. Witnesses will be called in the order of those first in favor, second opposed, and then third as interested may appear. The committee may ask questions of the zoning staff and applicant. It is necessary that we set a reasonable time limit on individual statements and on the overall length of the hearing. To promote orderly discussion, anyone wishing to present oral testimony or ask questions relating to the hearing should first state your name and present your testimony or questions so it becomes part of the official record. We request you avoid repetition. Once the committee has all the necessary facts, the chairman will close the hearing, allowing no further testimony, and the committee will deliberate and decide in front of the public whether the applicant has met the standards in the ordinance. No additional testimony from the public is allowed during the deliberation. However, the committee may question staff for purposes of clarification. After a decision is made, the committee will proceed to the next hearing. Many of the decisions made by this committee are a recommendation to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors, who will take up the matter at a future county board meeting. Please contact staff for more information regarding this county board process. The committee will now hear the application of 4A1 Connie Johnson on behalf of Donald F. Bowie, General Agriculture to Rural Estate, Town of Spencer. We will begin with our staff report. Robert, you are with us today. I'll start with swearing you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Proceed.
Thank you.
Just 1 minute, Mr. Chair. This is Andy Lynch. We had a call-in user.
Oh, go ahead, Andy.
We had a call-in user. Sorry. Call-in user, last two digits, 85. You could identify yourself for the committee, please.
About that, Tim Breland. I'm in a bad area and I got
Okay.
blocked. So I'm back.
All right. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Robert. Sorry to stop your roll.
It's okay, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 4A1, Donald F. Boy, petition to rezone land for today's March 1st, 2022 Environmental Resources Committee. Moving down to findings of fact. For public hearings and town meetings, the Town of Spencer Town Board meeting occurred on February 8th of 2022, and today we are listening to this item at today's Environmental Resources Committee meeting on March 1st, 2022 at 3 p.m. The petitioner in this case is Connie C. Johnson. Her address is 104-954 Hoff Road, Marshfield, Wisconsin, 54449. The property owner in this instance is Donald F. Boy. Property address of 104-864 Hoff Road, Marshfield, Wisconsin, 54449. Moving on to the location of the rezone request, the area proposed to be rezoned is in the middle of the town of Spencer, just east of the intersection of Red Fox Run and Hoff Road, as shown below in the image with a red arrow. Moving down to the nature of the request, the petition of Connie C. Johnson on behalf of Donald F. Boy to amend the Marathon County zoning ordinance to rezone lands from general agriculture to rural estate described below. The area proposed to be rezoned is described as lot number 2 on the preliminary certified survey map submitted with the rezone petition, part of this parent parcel listed below, with an address of 104-864 Hoff Road, Marshfield, Wisconsin. Moving down to the existing zoning district at hand, it is the general agricultural zoning district, the general agriculture zoning district that is, and below is the purpose statement. And the proposed zoning district is the rural estate zoning district, and below is the purpose statement of that district. Moving on to the existing zoning district map, the adjacent parcels are zoned as general agriculture in white and rural residential in tan, as shown below in the depiction. As a side note, the current parcel size is 19.94 acres. There also was a legal notification posted in the Wausau Daily Herald. Moving on to the existing generalized land use land cover map for the town of Spencer from their comprehensive plan in 2017, the area proposed to be rezoned is shown as other agriculture, residential, and outdoor recreation uses in the town's comprehensive plan existing land use land cover map. The adjacent land uses shown below are comprised of similar land uses. Moving on to the Town Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map from 2017, the area proposed to be rezoned is shown as residential uses in the town's Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map, and the adjacent land uses are comprised of similar land uses once again as shown below. Moving down to farmland preservation plan implications, the area in question was designated as a non-farmland preservation area in the farmland preservation plan, yet the town of Spencer does not participate in farmland preservation zoning, therefore there are no parcels within the town's own farmland preservation. Moving on to significant parcel limitations or natural features, the area proposed to be rezoned contains no FEMA floodplain areas or DNR mapped wetlands, but does contain shoreland overlays as shown below. Moving on to the existing preliminary certified survey map, shown below in a red dotted outline is the approximate area to be proposed to be rezoned. Once again, as a reminder, the area is proposed to be rezoned from general agriculture to rural estate, approximately 5.543 acres in size. Moving down to the aerial photograph number 1, as shown below is a depiction of the area proposed to be rezoned. Moving down to aerial photograph number 2, a more zoomed out approach showing the area once again proposed to be rezoned in a red dotted outline. And moving down to the town recommendation, on February 8th of 2022, the Town of Spencer Town Board recommended approval to Marathon County's Environmental Resources Committee, as shown below. And moving on to staff comments regarding the Environmental Resources Committee conclusions of law. Number 1, the rezoning is substantially consistent with the following plans. First, the Marathon County Comprehensive Plan. Second, the Town Comprehensive Plan. And third, the Marathon County Farmland Preservation Plan. The Marathon County Comprehensive Plan relies on the Town Comprehensive Plan regarding specific land uses and zoning districts for individual parcels. The area proposed to be rezoned is shown to be designated as residential uses in the town's future land use map, yet conservation planning and zoning staff rely on the towns to make these recommendations given the town board members and the residents know their town and the true purpose and intent of the plan. The area in question was not designated as a farmland preservation area. The town of Spencer does not participate in farmland preservation zoning. As indicated by the town resolution, it appears the rezone is consistent with the purpose and intent of the comprehensive plan. Number 2, the location of the proposed development minimizes the amount of agricultural land converted and will not substantially impair or limit current or future agricultural use of other protected farmland. It appears no active cropland will be converted as a result of this proposed rezone. Number 3, the applicant has demonstrated that first, there is a need for the proposed rezone. The need is related to a proposed land division. Second, adequate public facilities are present or will be provided. All necessary public facilities are anticipated to be provided, if not already provided, given any proposed development would rely on private systems, such as a private well and sanitary system, if applicable. Third, providing public facilities will not be an unreasonable burden to the local government. No anticipated burden on the local government. All applicable building, construction, and use standards will be applied during the zoning and building permitting review process. Number 4, the rezoning will not cause unreasonable air and water pollution, soil erosion, or adverse impacts on rare or irreplaceable natural areas. All federal, state, and local permits and approvals are required for any applicable development on site. Additionally, the proposed rezone will likely not result in any unreasonable air and water pollution, as all pertinent regulations apply and will be adhered to. And furthermore, any disturbance greater than 1 acre would need a DNR stormwater management permit. Number 5, the town has approved the proposed rezone of the property. Number 6, all concerns from other agencies on the proposed rezone have been addressed, and the county was not made aware of any concerns from any other agencies. And moving down finally to the CPZ staff recommendation, the rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. If approved, the town of Spencer should update their comprehensive plan to reflect the proposed rezone. The future and existing land use maps should also reflect the rezoning question. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town comprehensive plan as indicated by the town resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, Conservation Planning and Zoning staff recommend that the Environmental Resources Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. That would conclude item number 4A1. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee based on the staff report? Hearing and seeing none. Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
Next in line here, I would ask that anybody wishing to speak in favor of the proposed rezone, the rezone being Connie Johnson on behalf of Donald F. Boy, General Agriculture to Rural Estate, please unmute yourself or please come forward at this time. I'll call again. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of the proposed rezone, please unmute yourself. Please come forward at this time. Last call. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of the proposed rezone? Okay, moving on. Anybody wishing to speak against or anybody opposed to the rezone request, please identify yourself at this time. Again, this is for 4A1, Connie Johnson on behalf of Donald F. Boy. Anybody opposed to the rezone, please unmute yourself or come forward at this time. Last call. Anybody wishing to speak opposed to the rezone? Hearing none. Anybody wishing to speak as interest on the proposed rezone, please identify yourself at this time. Last call. Anybody wishing to speak as interested in the proposed rezone, please identify yourself at this time. Hearing none. If no one else wishes to testify for this application, I am now declaring the public hearing on Connie Johnson on behalf of Donald F. Boy, General Agriculture to Rural Estate, Town of Spencer, now closed. The committee will now deliberate on the application and apply the standards of the zoning ordinance. What is the pleasure of the committee?
Chair, this is Supervisor Firefight.
Go ahead, Supervisor Frick.
I'd make a motion that we recommend approval of the rezone for Connie Johnson on behalf of Donald F. Bohe, GA, General Agricultural to RE, Rural Estate in the Town of Spencer, and accept the findings of facts as presented by staff.
There's a motion made. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Drabek. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 4A2, Tim Vreeland on behalf of Kenneth P. Lake and Mary D. Lake Revocable Trust, Farmland Preservation to Urban Residential, and Farmland Preservation to General Agriculture, Town of Eau Plaine. We'll begin once again with our staff report.
All right, I would like to present to you item number 4A2, Kenneth P. Like and Mary D. Like Revocable Trust petition to rezone land for today's Environmental Resources Committee meeting. Moving down to public hearings and meetings, the Town of Eau Plaine Town Board met on February 8th of 2022, and today we are listening to this item during our ERC meeting on March 1st, 2022. The petitioner in this instance is Tim Vreeland, address 6103 Dawn Street, Weston, Wisconsin. The property owners in this instance are Kenneth P. and Mary D. Like, address 11250 Wildflower Lane, Sister Bay, Wisconsin. Moving on to the location of the rezone request, the area proposed to be rezoned is in the southeastern corner of the Town of Eau Plaine, approximately half a mile north of the intersection of Eau Plaine Road and State Highway 97, as shown below with this red arrow. Moving on to the nature of the request, the petition of Tim Vreeland on behalf of Kenneth P. Like and Mary D. Like Revocable Trust to amend the Marathon County zoning ordinance to rezone lands from farmland preservation to urban residential and farmland preservation to general agriculture, as described below. Moving on to the existing zoning district at hand, the existing zoning district is the Farmland Preservation Zoning District. And for this item, I will read through the intent and purpose of this district. The intent of this district is to maintain highly productive agricultural lands in food and fiber production by effectively limiting encroachment of non-agricultural development and minimizing land use conflicts among incompatible uses. This district is not intended to accommodate non-agricultural growth. Moving down to the proposed zoning districts at hand, the first one being the Urban Residential Zoning District, below is the purpose statement, and the second zoning district being the General Agriculture Zoning District, below is the purpose statement. Moving on to the existing zoning district map, as shown below, the adjacent parcels are zoned farmland preservation, as shown with this teal color. As a side note, the approximate size of this parcel is currently 35.789 acres, and there was a legal notification posted in the Wausau Daily Herald. Moving on to the existing generalized land use land cover map for the Town of Eau Plaine, the area proposed to be rezoned is shown as cropland, other agriculture, and single-family residential land uses in the town's comprehensive plan existing land use land cover map. Adjacent land uses are comprised of similar land uses. Moving on to the Town Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map, the area proposed to be rezoned is shown as cropland, other agriculture, and single-family residential land uses in the town's Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map. Adjacent land uses are comprised of similar land uses. Moving down to the Farmland Preservation Plan implications, the area in question is designated as a farmland preservation area in the Farmland Preservation Plan, as shown below. Moving down to prime farmland, the area proposed to be rezoned does not contain any prime farm soils, as shown below. Moving on to significant parcel limitations or natural features, the area proposed to be rezoned contains no FEMA floodplain areas or DNR mapped wetlands, but does contain shoreland overlays. Moving down to the existing preliminary certified survey map, as shown below, the proposed areas to be rezoned, the red dotted outlines portray the approximate areas to be rezoned from farmland preservation to general agriculture, approximately 35.005 acres, and from farmland preservation to urban residential, approximately 0.784 acres. Moving on to aerial photograph number 1. The red dotted outline portrays the area to be rezoned from farmland preservation to general agriculture, and the green dotted outline portrays the approximate area to be rezoned from farmland preservation to urban residential. Moving down to aerial photograph number 2, a more zoomed out approach. Once again, the red dotted outline portrays the approximate area to be rezoned from farmland preservation to general agriculture. And once again, the green dotted outline portrays the approximate area to be rezoned from farmland preservation to urban residential. Moving on to the town recommendation. On February 8th of 2022, the Town of Old Plain Town Board recommended approval to Marathon County's Environmental Resources Committee, as shown below. Moving on to staff comments regarding Environmental Resources Committee conclusions of law. Number 1, the rezoning is substantially consistent with the following plans. As a question, Marathon County Comprehensive Plan, Town Comprehensive Plan, and Marathon County Farmland Preservation Plan. These are the 3 plans we look at. The Marathon County Comprehensive Plan relies on the Town Comprehensive Plan regarding specific land uses and zoning districts for individual parcels. The area proposed to be rezoned is shown as cropland, other agriculture, and single-family residential land uses in the town's future land use map, yet conservation planning and zoning staff rely on the towns to make these recommendations given the town board members and residents know their town and the true purpose and intent of the plan. The area in question is designated as a farmland preservation area. As indicated by the town resolution, it appears the rezone is consistent with the purpose and intent of the comprehensive plan. However, regarding the farmland preservation plan implications, it is important to refer to the purpose and intent of the farmland preservation zoning district once again. The purpose of the farmland preservation zoning district is to maintain highly productive agricultural lands in food and fiber production by effectively limiting encroachment of non-agricultural development and minimizing land use conflicts among incompatible uses. This district is not intended to accommodate non-agricultural growth. It is highly important to protect the integrity of the farmland preservation zoning district. Furthermore, it is important to note that there are not adjoining and/or adjacent properties that are zoned as general agriculture. In addition, from a planning perspective, another goal of the farmland preservation zoning district is to limit the density of residential developments. As a side note, it appears as though the existing single-family residence on the existing parcel was constructed sometime between the years 1996 and 1997. Moving down to number 2, the location of the proposed development minimizes the amount of agricultural land converted and will not substantially impair or limit current or future agricultural use of other protected farmland. It appears no active cropland will be converted because of the proposed rezone. However, there is a possibility for the potential future creation of at least 3 future parcels if the lands currently zoned as farmland preservation are rezoned to general agriculture, the 35.005 acres shown in the preliminary certified survey map. This is because the general agriculture zoning district only requires a minimum lot size requirement of 10 acres and 200 feet of frontage for one single-family dwelling development. It is important to note that if the 35.005 acres of land are rezoned from farmland preservation to general agriculture, there could be a potential for future land divisions and more single-family residencies, which would subsequently result in an increase in the residential density in the area and cropland being converted for residential purposes. Furthermore, it is also highly important to note that the proposal, to rezone lands from farmland preservation to general agriculture does not meet the criteria below, criteria specifically A, C, and D, taken from Wisconsin Chapter 91.48 regarding farmland preservation rezoning. Specifically, A states the land is better suited for a use not allowed in the farmland preservation zoning district. C states the rezoning is substantially consistent with the county certified farmland preservation plan, and D states that the rezoning will not substantially impair or limit current or future agricultural use of surrounding parcels of land that are zoned for or legally restricted to agricultural use. Moving down to question number 3, the applicant has demonstrated that A, there is a need for the proposed development. Regarding A, the applicant demonstrated that there is no proposed development. The need for the proposal to rezone lands from farmland preservation to urban residential is due to a proposed land division. B, adequate public facilities are present or will be provided. All necessary public facilities are anticipated to be provided, if not already provided, given any proposed development would rely on private systems such as a private well and sanitary system. C, providing public facilities will not be an unreasonable burden to local government. No anticipated burden on local government. All applicable building, construction, and use standards will be applied during the zoning and building permitting review process. Number 4, the rezoning, will not cause unreasonable air and water pollution, soil erosion, or adverse impacts on rare or irreplaceable natural areas. All federal, state, and local permits and approvals are required for any applicable development on site. Additionally, the proposed rezone will likely not result in any unreasonable air and water pollution, as all pertinent regulations apply and will need to be adhered to. Any earth disturbance greater than 1 acre would need a DNR stormwater management permit. Number 5, the town has approved the proposed rezone of the property. The Town of Eau Plaine Town Board has recommended approval of the rezone petition. Number 6, all concerns from other agencies on the proposed rezone have been addressed. The county was not made aware of any concerns from other agencies. And moving down, there is a series of historical aerial images of the area in question. Below is a 1938 aerial image of the area. Furthermore, there is a 1968 aerial image of the area. Below that image is a 1990 aerial image of the area, a 1997 aerial image of the area, and a 2002 aerial image of the area. Moving on to the staff, conservation planning and zoning staff recommendations. The proposed rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. However, conservation planning and zoning staff would recommend denial of the portion of the petition involving the proposed rezone of 35.005 acres of land from farmland preservation to general agriculture. The reason being, there are no adjacent and or adjoining parcels zoned general agriculture, and the approval of this portion of the petition would conflict with the purpose and intent of the farmland preservation zoning district. Conservation planning and zoning staff would recommend approval of the portion of the petition involving the proposed rezone of the 0.78 acres of land from the farmland preservation zoning district to the urban residential zoning district. The reason being, the town's existing and future land use maps show the area proposed to be rezoned from farmland preservation to urban residential as single-family residential land uses. If approved, the town of Eau Plaine should update their comprehensive plan to reflect the proposed rezone. The future and existing land use maps should also reflect the rezone in question. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan as indicated by the town resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request partially meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, conservation planning and zoning staff recommend that the Environmental Resources Committee recommend denial of the portion of the petition to rezone lands from farmland preservation to general agriculture and approval of the portion of the petition to rezone lands from farmland preservation to urban residential to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. I would like to now conclude item number 4A2. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Robert? Okay, before moving on, I do have a couple. I want to highlight something that you had just said before concluding the staff report, which is that the distinction between the recommendation to approve the first parcel versus to deny that first parcel versus to approve the second one was that the one coming from urban residential or going to urban residential is in the comp plan going to be rezoned in the town's plan. that correct?
I would like to state that, I'll go back to that section here really quickly.
Sure.
So the reason why conservation planning and zoning staff would recommend approval of the portion of the petition involving the proposed rezone of the 0.78 acres of land from farm pres to urban residential is because the town's existing and future land use maps show the area proposed to be rezoned as from farm pres to UR as single-family residential land uses. So essentially, we as staff feel that and think that it matches up with what the town's desires are in terms of use for that area.
Okay.
That's our reasoning. Yep.
Sure. And that confirms what the information that I had received from you during the report. The second question I have is that the need for this rezone is connected to a proposed land division. Is that correct?
The need to propose the portion involving farmland preservation to urban residential is related to a proposed land division because as shown in the preliminary certified survey map, the property is looking to be sort of divided, so to speak. And essentially the remaining acreage is 35 acres and is compliant with the farmland preservation zoning district. And we were not made aware of any other additional reasoning as to why this 35.005 acres needs to be rezoned from farmland preservation to general agriculture. That wasn't expressed by the applicant.
Sure. And to be fair, it's my understanding, or at least has been in my experience with rezones, is that we cannot approve or deny a rezone on a future contingent plan associated with that rezone. Like if it's supposed to be something with the building of a structure, well, that's handled during the building permit process. So that's not necessarily tied to the work that we do here. What I was more or less concerned with was that, is there a way to accomplish what the applicant wants to accomplish without taking the land out of farmland preservation? That was my main concern.
Sure, and I'm unaware because I don't understand why the applicant, what the purpose is for that specific portion of the request.
Exactly. And maybe we'll get some more information during the testimony today. So,
sure.
Thank you. Any other
You're welcome.
questions?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to be sworn and comment as well.
Okay. So to everybody online, Paul Daigle, one of our staff members, is requested to speak. Paul, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Right. As part of the staff report, I did help Robert prepare this as well with Jeff Pritchard, our planner. And I just have a couple comments. First of all, I fully support the staff recommendation coming forward as is. I just have one clarification, and I wasn't able to notify Robert of this and have the correction made in the packet. And that is, there appears to be an error in that farmland soils map that's included in your packet. No error on Robert's behalf, but the map is incorrect. I looked that soil type up for that 40-acre parcel, and it is mapped as withy. And I am also a licensed professional soil scientist, and I'll testify that that is considered a prime farmland of Marathon County. The swale going through the parcel is mapped Marshfield series, and that is not a prime farmland soil. It's considered very poorly drained. But the vast majority of that parcel, in which concurs with our findings, that should remain, our recommendation is that it should remain in farmland preservation zoning, and that is indeed a prime farmland soil in western Marathon County.
Chair, this is Supervisor Firefight.
I'm going to put you on deck for just a second, Supervisor Frick. I want to confirm something that Paul just said. So, Paul, given that new information, my main question is that the staff still supports the recommendation, given that new information.
Correct. That solidifies it even further.
Sure. Very good. All right, Supervisor Firefight, go ahead.
Yeah, and I thought I understood this, but I think I got more confused during the presentation. But so the reason for staff's recommended denial of the rezone, is that based on the future land use map for the town? Or what is that based on?
I would direct that to Robert.
Sure, thank you, Randy. I will just simply reread the previous information that was presented regarding why our department feels the way we do in terms of recommending this type of this type of recommendation in this fashion. So I think it's important to start here. Let's see. Okay, so mainly the purpose, it's once again very important to reiterate the purpose of the Farmland Preservation Zoning District, and that purpose is to maintain highly productive agricultural lands in food and fiber production by effectively limiting the encroachment of non-agricultural development and minimizing land use conflicts among incompatible uses. This district is not intended to accommodate non-agricultural growth. Furthermore, it's also very important to note that there are no adjoining and or adjacent properties in the general vicinity at all that are zoned as general agriculture. So there are no other parcels zoned as general agriculture in this area. In addition, from a planning perspective, included here in the staff report is that another goal of the Farmland Preservation Zoning District is to actually limit the density of residential developments. And as a side note, it appears as though the existing single-family residence on the existing parcel was constructed sometime in the mid-90s. So essentially there's two main points here. Basically, we want to protect the integrity of the Farmland Preservation Zoning District and limit residential densities as described. And furthermore, there are no adjacent or adjoining parcels zoned as general agriculture. So from a planning perspective, it's not really favorable at all. So I hope that answers your question, Randy.
Yeah, I guess I'm still confused on some things, but we can get through the rest of the public hearing and maybe I'll have some comments at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Firefight. Any other questions related to the staff report from the committee at this time? If not, we'll get into the portion of the public hearing for the public to actually address the rezone. So any other questions? And remember, we'll have another opportunity to ask clarifying questions to staff during our discussion period. So if you have a question, this wouldn't be necessarily the last opportunity to ask it. Moving on. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of the rezone request, please come forward or unmute yourself at this time. Again, we are discussing 4A2, Tim Vreeland on behalf of Kenneth P. Laik and Mary D. Laik Revocable Trust, Farmland Preservation to Urban Residential and Farmland Preservation to General Agriculture in the town of Eau Plaine. I believe Tim was on the line at one point.
Mr. Chair, this is Andy Lynch.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Andy.
Tim
Thank you.
Tim is there. I'm going to go and unmute him.
Sure.
Tim?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Tim,
Hi.
do you wish to speak, correct?
Yes, please.
I'm gonna swear you in. Do you tell the truth, or do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed. Thank you.
I have to apologize. There may have been a mistake on the application. When we originally submitted my survey map, we were looking for 2 acres, and the remnant parcel would have been under the 35 acres. So when talking to Jeff Pritchard, he suggested we rezone the 0.78 acre parcel to the UR urban residential, and I did not delete parcel 2 being rezoned to the general ag. We can keep that parcel as farmland preservation because that's why we adjusted our lot sizes. So that lot 2 would be the 2 acres or the 35 acres, and the smaller parcel, the 0.78. So I don't think I don't think I have any problem with denial of the 35 acres because it complies with the zoning. And we hope that you will rezone the 0.78 acre parcel to the UR zoning. I know it was a scramble to get the application changed, and I know there was some changes of personnel and zoning, and somehow it got missed.
Thank you, Tim. That's very good information to have. Is there any questions from the committee for Tim? Okay, I'm going to ask sort of to to make sure that we're consistent here, which I'm fairly confident we are. The 0.78 acres is what you were alluding to there about taking that from farmland pres to urban residential. But the 35 acre piece going from farmland pres to general ag, if that was denied today, that would be consistent with your client's wishes as long as that 0.78 moves to urban residential. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Which is consistent with the staff's information today. So, okay, very good.
And that's a conversation me and Jeff had, and that was the intent. It was submitted different. The original submittal was different, and then we changed to what Jeff recommended, and that didn't get deleted off of there. So
Okay,
we would be happy with the owner's recommendation.
very good. Any other questions for Tim? All right, seeing none. Tim, really appreciate this one.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, anybody else wishing to speak in favor of the proposed request, please unmute yourself or identify yourself at this time. I'll call one last time after this. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of the proposed rezone?
Mr. Chair, this is Andy Lynch again. We have Bonnie online. I'm going to unmute her. Bonnie?
Hi, excuse me.
But Bonnie,
Yes,
did you wish to testify?
Yes, I
Okay,
just want to agree, so, yes,
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, no, I agree with what Tim said, and we do want to keep that in farmland preservation and remove the house, the single-family home portion from that. So I just want to say that I do agree with that.
Okay, any questions for Bonnie from the committee? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of the proposed rezone, please unmute yourself or identify yourself at this time. Last call. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of the proposed rezone? Hearing none. Anybody wishing to speak against the proposed rezone? Again, we're under 4A2, Tim Vreeland on behalf of Kenneth P. Laic and Mary D. Laic Revocable Trust. Please identify yourself at this time. I'll call one more time after this. Anybody wishing to speak against the proposed rezone, please identify yourself at this time. Hearing none. Anybody wishing to speak as interested on the proposed rezone, please identify yourself at this time. Last call. Anybody wishing to speak as interested on the proposed rezone, please identify yourself at this time. Okay. If no one else wishes to testify for this application, I am now declaring the public hearing on Tim Vreeland on behalf of Kenneth P. Laic and Mary D. Laic Revocable Trust, farmland preservation to urban residential and farmland preservation to general agriculture, Town of Oak Plain, now closed. The committee will now deliberate on the application and apply the standards of the zoning ordinance. What is the pleasure of the committee?
Chair, this is Supervisor Frick.
Go ahead, Supervisor Firefight.
First, I just want to question, I don't know if we have our county attorney available or not, but are we okay with moving forward with this process where we're approving or recommending approval of a portion of the zoning change? Is that going to create any issues?
I think in this case, it'd be appropriate for staff to provide some clarity there. I'm not quite sure.
So I believe I can answer that since we worked as a team with the planner and the zoning specialist and myself. So one parcel is not being considered for rezoning. So we're really considering that a separate request, that smaller parcel to become rezoned to the classification as listed. And the land division is legal and the rezone is legal by our interpretation. We didn't feel it was that complex that we needed to seek legal counsel on that. And also now we have affirmation from the applicant that they are fine with that as well. And I don't believe that we need it. If the committee prefers that they postpone this and that we seek it, we certainly would do that. But I think it would be difficult to rely on a corporation counsel come in, and he's unfamiliar with this situation, that it would be merit postponement if you were uncomfortable with that rezone request in the way that we have it proposed.
Thank you, Paul. And maybe I'll just throw this out there for discussion. The way I view this is that rather than have the applicants submit another application in order to have this done or to delay it a month, one option we could have is to accept the recommendations from staff, move this on to county board, and we could ask corporation counsel for an opinion in the meantime. If it does turn out that this is something that we could not do, we could always refer this back to the committee for next month. So I don't know what your thoughts are, Supervisor Firefight, on that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. I think that's a good approach in this. I don't want to see the application delayed. It seems that there was just some miscommunication on this in general. So I would make a motion to recommend, let me start here. In terms of the zoning application, Tim Breland on behalf of Kenneth P. Like and Mary D. Like Revocable Trust, I would recommend denial of the portion of the petition to rezone lands from FP to GA and approval of the portion of the petition to rezone lands from FP to UR, and accept the findings of facts as presented by staff with the noted public hearing testimony of Mr. Vreeland.
Motion is made. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Seefeld. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 4A3. Corey Arendt on behalf of Oliver W. and Arlene D. Hoppy, General Agriculture to Rural Estate and Rural Residential to Rural Estate, Town of Easton. We'll begin with our staff report.
All right, I would like to present item number 4A3, Oliver W. and Arlene D. Hoppy, petition to rezone land for today's March 1st ERC meeting. Moving on to public hearings and meetings, the Town of Easton Town Board meeting occurred on February 14th of 2022, and today we are listening to this item on today's Marathon County Environmental Resources Committee for March 1st, 2022. The petitioner in this instance is Corey Arndt, address 175815 State Highway 52, Anawa, Wisconsin. The property owners in this instance are Oliver W. and Arlene D. Hoppy, property address of 237811 Sawmill Road, Anawa, Wisconsin. Moving down to the location of the rezone request, the area proposed to be rezoned is located approximately 3/4 miles east of the intersection of Sawmill Road and State Highway 52 in the town of Easton, as shown below in the red arrow. Moving down to the nature of the request, the petition of Corey Arndt on behalf of Oliver W. and Arlene D. Hoppy to amend the Marathon County zoning ordinance to rezone lands from general agriculture to rural estate and rural residential to rural estate, described below. Moving down to the existing zoning districts at hand, the existing zoning districts are general agriculture and rural residential, and the proposed zoning district is rural estate. Moving down to the existing zoning district map, the adjacent parcels are zoned as general agriculture as shown in white and as depicted below. As a side note, the current parcel size is 2.25 acres. A legal notification was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Moving on to the existing generalized land use land cover map for the town of Hewitt. The area proposed to be rezoned is shown as other agriculture, woodlands, single-family residential, and cropland uses in the town's comprehensive plan existing land use cover map. Adjacent land uses are comprised of similar land uses as shown below. Moving on to the town comprehensive plan future land use map, the area proposed to be rezoned is shown as other agriculture, woodlands, single-family residential, and cropland uses in the town's comprehensive plan future land use map. Adjacent land uses are comprised of similar land uses once again. Moving down to farmland preservation plan, the area in question was designated as a non-farmland preservation area in the farmland preservation plan, yet the town of Easton does not participate in farmland preservation zoning. Therefore, there are no parcels zoned in the town as farmland preservation. Moving on to significant parcel limitations or natural features, the area proposed to be rezoned contains no FEMA floodplain areas, but does contain DNR mapped wetlands and shoreland overlays, as shown below. Moving on to the existing preliminary certified survey map, the red dotted outline portrays the approximate area to be rezoned from rural residential to rural estate, approximately 2.25 acres in size, and the green dotted outline portrays the approximate area to be rezoned from general agriculture to rural estate, approximately 2.75 acres in size. Moving down to aerial photograph number 1, once again, the red dotted outline portrays the approximate area to be rezoned from rural residential to rural estate, and the green dotted outline portrays the approximate area to be rezoned from general agriculture to rural estate. Moving on to the second aerial photograph, just a more zoomed out approach showing those the proposal in terms of the rezone. The red dotted outlines indicate those areas to be rezoned. Moving on to the town recommendation, on February 14th of 2022, the Town of Easton Town Board recommended approval to Marathon County's Environmental Resources Committee, as shown below. And moving on to staff comments regarding the ERC conclusions of law. Number 1, the rezoning is substantially consistent with the following plans. The first, Marathon County Comprehensive Plan. The second, Town Comprehensive Plan. And the third, the Marathon County Farmland Preservation Plan. The Marathon County Comprehensive Plan relies on the Town Comprehensive Plan regarding specific land uses and zoning districts for individual parcels. The area proposed to be rezoned is shown to be designated as other agriculture, woodlands, single-family residential, and cropland uses in the town's future land use map. Yet, conservation planning and zoning staff rely on the towns to make these recommendations, given the town board members and residents know their town and the true purpose and intent of the plan. The area in question was not designated as a farmland preservation area. The town of Easton does not participate in farmland preservation zoning. As indicated by the town resolution, it appears the rezone is consistent with the purpose and intent of the comprehensive plan. Number 2, the location of the proposed development minimizes the amount of agricultural land converted and will not substantially impair or limit current or future agricultural use of other protected farmland. It appears some active cropland will be converted as a result of the proposed rezone. However, the applicant stated that the current cropland is only grassy hay and is not an advanced crop. Number 3, the applicant has demonstrated, first, there is a need for the proposed development. That need is related to a proposed land division. Second, adequate public facilities are present or will be provided. All necessary public facilities are anticipated to be provided, if not already provided, given any proposed development would rely on the private system, such as private well and sanitary system, if applicable. Third, providing public facilities will not be an unreasonable burden to the local government. No anticipated burden on local government. All applicable building construction and use standards will be applied during the zoning and building permit review process. Number 4, the rezoning will not cause unreasonable air and water pollution, soil erosion, or adverse impacts, or effects, I should say, on irreplaceable natural areas. All federal, state, and local permits and approvals are required for any applicable development on site. Additionally, the proposed rezone will likely not result in any unreasonable air and water pollution, as all pertinent regulations apply and will be adhered to. As a reminder, any earth disturbance greater than 1 acre would need a DNR stormwater management permit. Number 5, the town has approved the rezone of the property. The town of the Easton, Town Board has recommended approval of this rezone petition. Number 6, all concerns of other agencies on the proposed rezone have been addressed. The county was not made aware of any concerns from other agencies. Moving on to the staff recommendation, the rezone meets all zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. If approved, the town of Easton should update their comprehensive plan to reflect the proposed rezone. The future and existing land use map should also reflect the rezoning question. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan as indicated by the town resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, conservation planning and zoning staff recommend that the Environmental Resources Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. I would like to now conclude item number 4A3. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Robert on the staff report? All right, hearing none, thank you. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of the proposed rezone? We are on Corey Arndt on behalf of Oliver W. and Arlene D. Hoppy, General Ag to Rural Estate and Rural Residential to Rural Estate, Town of Easton. Please identify yourself at this time. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of the proposed request, please identify yourself at this time. I'll call one more time after this. Anybody wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none. Moving on to anybody wishing to speak against the proposed rezone, please unmute yourself or come forward at this time. I'll call one more time. Anybody wishing to speak against the proposed rezone, please identify yourself at this time. Anybody wishing to speak as interested, please identify yourself at this time. Last call. Anybody wishing to speak is interested? Hearing none. If no one else wishes to testify for this application, I am now declaring the public hearing on 4A3, Corey Arndt on behalf of Oliver W. and Arlene D. Hoppy, General Agriculture to Rural Estate and Rural Residential to Rural Estate, Town of Easton now closed. The committee will now enter deliberations. What is the pleasure of the committee?
Chair, this is Supervisor Firefight.
Go ahead, Supervisor Firefight.
I'd make a motion to recommend approval of the rezone for Corey Arndt on behalf of Oliver W. and Arlene D. Hoppy from general agricultural to rural estates and rural residential to rural estates in the town of Easton, and accept the findings and facts as presented by staff.
Motion has been made. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Draybeck. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we are on to 4A4, reopen the public hearing on text amendment changes to the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County, Chapter 17, Zoning Code. I don't know who we have.
That would be me.
Okay, Lori, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Robert, could I have you bring up Table 2 in the draft ordinance?
Certainly. One moment, please. I believe it is up now.
Hang on, let me get mine up here. It's a little small. Okay, so when we met last month, the one outstanding amendment that we still had for discussion that you directed CPC to go back and do a little further digging on was related to the shipping containers. We brought forth last month a proposal to make them conditional use permit in the smaller residential districts and then permit them in the larger districts. But then we were directed by the ERC to look into the issue a little bit more to find out how other communities are dealing with shipping containers, and to also consider if there's anything we could add to the language to regulate as it relates to managing numbers or character or look of the shipping containers. This was brought back to us because we did have some differences from our towns in terms of input on whether or not they like having shipping containers in certain districts. So what we did internally is we did research and tried to find out what else was out there in terms of what communities are doing to manage shipping containers. I think we came to the conclusion that this is very much still an evolving topic. There's a lot of research that's still developing in terms of how committees are approaching their management of the containers. We did discuss ideas internally about the idea of could we regulate for graffiti or possibly regulate to one color. But after discussing as staff, we didn't feel like this was in line with how the county has historically approached regulating on character elements within our code. One person's graffiti could be another's art, and then we also discussed what if we find that an applicant's most appropriate color scheme would actually be camouflage, then it wouldn't be one color anymore. We might find an instance where we might want to tell an applicant that they should use camouflage colors to make their shipping containers blend in better. So what we did do after a bunch of internal discussion is we came up with a new proposal, which was to continue making them prohibited in the smaller residential districts for now. We just think that we need to continue to monitor the situation and see what we're getting in terms of requests from towns and issues with towns. So take that off the table for now and continue to monitor over the next year and perhaps bring back another proposal next year. But we did recommend making them conditional use permits in the rural estate and the recreation districts, and then switching it to permitted in our larger districts. So people would still, in those sort of smaller parcels, have to go through a conditional use permit process, but in our larger districts, they could be permitted. And then, Robert, I'll ask you to go to what page did I tell you that was on? Can you click to the 401 section about the actual language?
Absolutely. One moment, please. Here you go.
And so a couple of things we did in terms of the language in the code to also I guess, beef up what we could do is we took out the word encouraged and changed it to shall match the character to where the accessory is located. And then we also reiterated that conditional use permits would still be required in the rural estate and recreation districts. Again, they would remain prohibited in those smaller urban residential districts. The other thing we have in there is we still have screening requirements that can be required by the zoning administrator. So we still have that ability to work with an applicant if we believe they're proposing to place a shipping container someplace where it may have trouble blending in. We can work with them to require some screening requirements. And the other thing we did suggest was that we limit a shipping container to one on any parcel of 5 acres or less. So this would account for those denser areas where somebody's not stacking a bunch of shipping containers in a small parcel. So that's the changes we came back with on the shipping containers. I did want to also share with the committee that since we met last month, we did receive 2 additional comments not related to shipping containers. The first came in from the town of McMillan related to garage door height, and they wanted to know why we are continuing to limit the heights of garage doors to 12 feet in the residential districts. And they're referring to Table 6 on page 94 of our code, where it talks about that the maximum garage door height is 12 feet. I think for context, in that same table, the sidewalls are limited to 14 feet, and they want to know why they couldn't go at least that high, if not more. The purpose, as they saw it, would be to allow for people to build garages to house larger RVs. Historically, when this table and this intent was created in the code, it was to manage for the idea of not encouraging large vehicles like semis to be parked in residential districts and people running businesses out of their homes, essentially. But however, regardless, the way the code is written now, even with that 12-foot restriction, there is a provision in the code that they can go through a conditional use permit process to change the dimensions in the table. So after looking at that internally, we're not proposing any changes at this time because they can still do a conditional use permit if the idea is that somebody wants to build a garage for an RV. And through that conditional use permit process, they would have to demonstrate what their need is and also make sure it's not affecting their neighbor's ability to use their property. So the neighbor would also get a chance to weigh in on that larger garage. The other comment we received is in regards to trees on the property line. So this came in from the town of Marathon, and they want to know why our code does not prohibit trees being planted along property lines. They're referring to a line in 17-601-11 where we discourage it within 15 feet between residential and farmland preservation districts. This was a question that was brought forth to this committee back in around 2015 or 2016. We had Corporation Counsel research the issue at the time, and they came back notifying us that the case law and statute did not give the county authority to regulate on this matter. So we did kick it back to Core Counsel again just to confirm that nothing has changed as it relates to our authority or case law, and that was really what the town of Marathon was asking, was just please verify again that nothing has changed. And they did do the research for us, and they have confirmed there remains no provisions in case law for the county to enact tree setbacks, and no power is expressly delegated to us to do this. So we are not proposing any changes to this at this time either. So.
Okay. Any questions for Lori? Okay, I do have a couple. The first one is in regards to, and I have to find it here. I believe it's on the solar panels. Let's see. Signs, off-premise ground signs, temporary signs. I'm trying to figure out where I saw that. Yes, thank you, Robert. I should say, so solar energy, so these are actual businesses that are, like a solar farm, is that correct?
Can you go to that section just to clarify if it's in the private or the commercial?
Certainly, one moment, please.
Oh, it does say private use.
Yeah, I believe it's private, but we can double check and verify quickly for you.
Sure. The reason I ask is because I know that for at least town government, there's different provisions under the state law of what you can regulate that's dependent on the megawatts of the facility. So I was curious about this.
I think that's for over 100 megawatts, correct? Yeah.
Probably,
Yeah,
yeah.
Go to this
I know
one.
it's large enough that the most solar farm facilities aren't going to be that small that they're ever going to qualify for that regulation, because otherwise it gets thrown to the PSC, everything above.
Correct.
Yeah.
On the screen is the proposed change.
Private use. Okay. Very good. And then the other comment, or one comment I have, when this ultimately does get up to the county board, one thing I really like about our staff reports is that they include the codes, the corresponding, like, NC, neighborhood commercial. If you provide a summary like this, be sure to include that before the summary document. Otherwise, they'll have to go and find it in the code itself.
Okay.
And you already answered my question about the shipping containers, so that is everything that I had. Is there anything else from the committee? Okay.
Supervisor Conley?
Yeah, go ahead, Supervisor Conway.
I was just wondering, when this does come to the full board, would it be a good idea to have someone from staff give an overview, like a brief overview of it, versus trying to make sure that people read it in their packets? That might make for a clearer understanding of a vote.
Yeah, we can communicate with staff and have somebody available that evening that they could ask questions. It's a good idea, Supervisor Conway. Anything else from the committee? If not, we'll go to collect testimony from the public. All right, hearing none. Thank you, Lori. Okay, anybody wishing to speak in favor of the proposed requests for the text amendment changes to the General Code of Ordinances for Chapter 17 Zoning Code, Marathon County, please identify yourself at this time. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of the proposed requests? Last call. All right, hearing none. Anybody wishing to speak against the proposed amendments to the Chapter 17 Code of Ordinances? Please identify yourself at this time. One more time. Anybody wishing to speak against the proposed changes? Hearing none. Anybody wishing to speak as interested on the proposed changes, please identify yourself this time. Last call. Anybody wishing to speak as interested? Hearing none. If no one else wishes to testify for this application, I am now declaring the public hearing on, reopening the public hearing on text amendment changes to the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County Chapter 17 Zoning Code now closed. The committee will now enter discussion, deliberation. What is the pleasure of the committee?
Chair Supervisor Frick.
Go ahead, Supervisor Firefight.
I'd make a motion that we recommend approval of the text amendment changes to the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County Chapter 17, the zoning code as presented.
Motion has been made. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Seefeld. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, 4B, review and possible recommendations to the county board for its consideration. Town zoning changes pursuant to WISSTAT 60.62 sub 3. We have none. 4C, review and possible recommendations to the county board for its consideration. 4C1 has been pulled. 4C2, restructuring 0.75 FTE motorized recreation coordinator to 1 FTE recreation coordinator. Do we have somebody from staff that can assist us with that?
Mr. Chair, this is Jamie Polly, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you. I apologize I can't be in person today at the meeting, but I am bringing this forward to recommendation to County Board to restructure our 3/4 time FTE motorized recreation coordinator to a 1 full-time FTE recreation coordinator. We currently had a resignation of our motorized coordinator who's leaving for a full-time position. And we've been finding that it's been more difficult to find even full-time staff. So we looked at revamping this position to make it more, able to recruit better for this position so that we can still get the services needed that cover the motorized recreation part, but also looking at our operations of our department. And currently, there's been a request from both county administration as well as our city administration to put more into our recreation and look at ways of generating revenue that way. And right now we currently only have 1 recreation professional on staff, and that's how it's been for many, many years. Last year we tried to bring a 0.6 recreation coordinator forward, but having another 0.6 FTE on the books was not supported at that time. Rather, we're looking at being more efficient. So with the resignation of this coordinator position, we have reviewed it and do believe we can do the motorized recreation piece at 0.5 because many of our bridge projects that we had going on in the last 2 years are coming to an end. And then we feel that to better operate our department and to fulfill kind of the direction of adding to our recreation is to have 0.5 as a recreation coordinator who would work mainly with our recreation superintendent on the aquatics portion. So you'll see in the packet, if you scroll to the page where the budget portion is, the position is already funded, the 0.75 of it's already funded, and we would continue that. The part that is county levy, a portion would still be dedicated to the recreation coordinator because there is county levy work needed for the administration of the snowmobile and the ATV program. But we also have a county splash pad and other county programs where a portion of the new half a person would work on the recreation side. So the actual increase to our budget going from the 0.75 to a 1, and that is including all benefits, assuming we're giving family benefits for this position, is $15,600. Because a big portion of this addition is a city function, this will also go through my city parks committee and the city council, but 75% of that $15,000 would be a cost to the city, and 25% or the $3,900 is the cost to the county. Looking at where this is cost, we're not asking for any type of a budget adjustment with this at this time because I currently have a full-time mechanic position open that has been open since the first of the year. And I'm putting a plug out there if anyone knows a mechanic to have them please apply because we do not have any applicants at this time. So it's going to be probably another month. That position is a 50-50 split for both city and county. That what we're saving on that right now will pay for the county portion of that. It will also help pay for the city side as well for this year. And then looking at 2023, we think we can adjust our budget enough or have the revenue offset the $3,900 on the county side. And then on the city side, we will be eliminating 1 regular part-time employee of a savings of $12,500. So that covers that too. So we're looking at this being, revenue or expenditure neutral, not asking for any budget adjustment, but just revamping this position to make it more marketable and to fulfill some of the tasks of our department more efficiently. And the Parks Commission did see this afternoon, and they did move unanimously to recommend this to the Environmental Resource Committee as well as onto the County Board.
Okay. Any questions for the Parks Director? Oh, Chair Gibbs has a comment, question. I said I just turned off and turned it back on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just, Jamie, two questions, I guess. As administration weighed in on this, I know our policy is that administration weighs in on it, as does HR. Even though you're not asking for additional funding, it still is expanding the workforce from 0.75 to 0.10.
Yes, Chair Gibbs. I have talked this through with Administrator Leonard as well as our Human Resources Director. She also had a copy of this proposal before I put it in the packet to see if there was anything that I was missing. They are in support of this, knowing what our tasks are, as well as the struggles we've had hiring full-time staff in general. And because it is considered budget neutral and we can work that out, they are in support of this.
So I have perhaps a follow-up question to what was just asked. It was my understanding that the part of that there would be a levy impact on the county, and that was $15,000. Did I misunderstand that, Jamie?
Yes, the actual impact to the levy that would be a change would be the $3,918.
But the total expansion for the position would be the 15,000.
Correct, but
Thank you.
11, yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a breakdown there. I just, wanted to make sure I understood that.
Yep.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Chair Gibbs.
So, Jamie, is this scheduled to go to HR Finance next week?
I will get it on the agenda following this meeting. Yep, I haven't put it on the agenda yet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, what is the pleasure of the committee? Supervisor Seefeld.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that we recommend that we go from a 7.5 FTE motorized recreational coordinator to a 1.0 FTE recreational coordinator.
To clarify, moving that with ERC's recommendation to finance, right? Okay.
Yep. Move it to, this goes to HR Finance, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I just want to make sure it's part of the motion. Yep. All right. Motion is made. Is there a second?
Supervisor Conwell, second.
Supervisor Conway with the second. Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Jamie. Moving on to 4D, review and possible action. 4D1, Red Parrot Preliminary County Plat, Town of Knowlton.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Red Parrot subdivision, Town of Knowlton. It's a preliminary county plat, and I'll just go through the staff report that was provided along with the a copy of the preliminary plat in the packet. For the plat requirements, as far as survey requirements, the plat complies with Chapter 236 of the Wisconsin statutes, Chapter 87 of the Wisconsin Administrative Code, and Chapter 18 of the Marathon County Code of Ordinances regarding subdivisions and mapping. The plat is located in Knowlton and is county zoned with low-density residential zoning. The proposed plat meets the requirements of that zoning district. Environmental conditions, a stormwater management plan or erosion control plan are not required for this plat because no new construction of infrastructure is proposed. There's no new roads being proposed in this plat. Wetland areas are shown on the plat and the wetland delineation report was provided. I did not include that report in the packet. I have it available here. It's 100 and some pages if anyone wants some good light reading. Sanitary sewer, all lots will be served by POUTs, private on-site wastewater treatment systems, based on county mapping and preliminary soil investigations. Lot 1 soil types are suitable for a mound system. Lot 2 and 3 soil types are suitable for conventional systems, and lots 4 and 5 will require further investigation to determine if mound systems or holding tanks would be appropriate. And that will be concluded after frost out in the spring. For access, lots 1, 2, and 3 have direct access to Redfield Road, and lots 4 and 5 will have direct access to Parrot Bay Lane. Prior to the submittal of Red Parrot subdivision plat, preliminary plat for approval, a concept plat discussion was held to help the developer decide whether a county plat or certified survey map would be appropriate. They decided to go with the county plat because they wanted that one extra lot. If there was only 4 lots shown, this could be done simply with a certified survey map. But they did decide to go with the county plat. Approval by Environmental Resources Committee is final and no county board approval is necessary. I wanted to note that so everyone's clear. For staff recommendation, based on the information provided, CPZ staff recommends that the Environmental Resources Committee approve the proposed preliminary county plat of Red Parrot subdivision.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, what was the pleasure of the committee? Huh. I didn't know you all wanted to spend all evening here. I believe a motion to approve would be in order based on the staff report. Somebody willing to make that motion?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to move this forward, or not move it forward, but
To approve.
To approve it, yes.
Yep.
The Red Parrot subdivision. Yeah.
There we go. Motion is made by Supervisor Drabek. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Seefeld. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on, 4D2, request from Executive Committee to review and provide input and priorities on Administrator's 2022 work plan. I'm going to pass it off to the County Board Chair to provide a little bit of direction here, but at last month's Executive Committee meeting, there was some discussion regarding the priorities in our County Administrator's work plan. As you all know, he has a finite amount of time during the day, and that includes getting to work with other employees and being able to accomplish objectives. And given the resource constraints that we have and the growing workload on Administrator Leonard's plate, the Executive Committee requested that the standing committees provide a review of the 2022 work plan and identify the priorities that they feel the administrator should address first and foremost. So that's where our discussion will center around today. Chair Gibbs, did you have anything to add?
No, I think you hit the key point, and that is, since we don't have a deputy administrator yet and still are in a recruitment phase for that, capacity for the administrator to effectuate 30-some items on a work plan is a little bit cumbersome and much more, especially if we're going to rank and rate the administrator's performance based on the work plan. I felt that there was a need for some prioritization and so was looking from each of the committees for potentially their top three priority items. The executive committee is going to provide, in essence, the top 10, but looking for each of the committees to identify the top potential 2 or 3 projects that they felt the administrator needed to key in on and would be part of his performance appraisal. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Gibbs. So, as I said, I'd like to have some committee discussion today regarding what those 3 priorities are. And I have no problem starting out. And if anybody else wishes to disagree with me or provide a alternative viewpoint, by all means, go ahead. The 3 that I had identified were the process regarding how the ARPA funding will be rolled out. And I feel like this is going to be a priority for most departments. And if we're scrolling here, I think that's what Robert's doing right now. I think that's on page, he might find it before me. 3B. Yep, there we go. Thank you. Like I said, this is due to the flexibilities regarding these funds when it comes to revenue loss, and even beyond that, the opportunities that we have for broadband funding through these funds. This is going to be a high priority for every single committee out there. And to be honest, the ERC is no different. We were hoping to use these funds as a source to do some work with the Fenwood Creek project, or at least use that as a partial source of funding. While that's probably not the case with water infrastructure funding anymore, there still is an opportunity for funding with revenue loss, or at least that's how I view it. Others could view it differently. So the ARPA funding, that was my number 1. The other one that I had, and I might go out of order here in the packet, so I apologize, was the comp plan review and the strategic plan refresh, because that is a priority that's going to take place very soon. And typically during the planning stages or I should say, typically with planning functions, we are the oversight committee for the conservation planning and zoning department. So we might not necessarily spend a lot of time discussing it here at the committee level, but like the comp plan, that impacts some of the work that we do here, and the strategic plan is a responsibility for all of the departments and all the committees in the county. The last one I had, and it's kind of a tie because one of them is so new that it was just added to the administrator's work plan, and that's the environmental repair fund discussion that we've been having in the last couple meetings, and then the Fenwood Creek watershed project. So those sort of tie. If I had to give a preference, the other would probably be the Fenwood Creek, because there's a lot of opportunity there to implement our strategic plan objectives. But that was my ranking for the 3. I don't know if anybody else has any other comments.
Chair, Supervisor Firefight.
Go ahead, Supervisor Firefight.
I guess just I'm going to give my thoughts on this, and I need to drop off the meeting, so I apologize. But just looking kind of through the list, I think create a long-term facilities plan, which is on that second page, kind of ties in with something at the top of the third page, which is acquire property for the multi-department highway parks facility. I think that taking a good hard look at what we want to do, what our future looks like in that, I think that's very pivotal. And then ARPA funds, absolutely, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, as they say. So I think we need to make the most of what we have with this. And the final thing is, scroll down here, is it's on page 13, is develop and implement solution to the tax deed and property description backlog. Knowing how many properties are out there throughout Marathon County and how that's affecting funding, I think that is a huge impact on everything that we do on the county level. So other than that, I appreciate your time. I need to head off to another meeting though.
Thank you for your input, Supervisor Firefight. Okay, other thoughts? I believe we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Supervisor Conway, you're still with us, correct?
I'm afraid so.
That is the correct response. Thank you for that. In regards to that, well, first of all, Supervisor Conway, did you have any thoughts?
I guess my only addition, perhaps, and not even addition, but when we going through the comp plan and the strategic plan, like you said, when Vice Chair McEwen came and did a refresh with us, it was fairly clear that we hadn't met a lot of our goals in it. We were even talking about pushing some off, like lowering phosphorus numbers. If the administrator, had more of a focus towards environmental resources aspects in the comp plan, that might get it done a little bit better. That was my only addition.
Okay. So then the items that I've collected from the committee, and I'm going to sort of defer from my approach a little bit here, but the ARPA funds clearly are a priority. I think we can all agree on that. Supervisor Firefight had mentioned the facilities plan, which my only comment to that would be, I'm not quite sure how much the committee here has input into it. Regardless, it impacts the work that our employees do. I totally understand that. But I'm not quite sure if that's necessarily a priority coming from the committee. And that's where we have to do this sort of balancing act between what's a priority for the entire county and what's a priority just in the environmental resources area, which is difficult, and that's what I'm asking you to do today. In regards to Chair Gibbs' request, I think that it'd be appropriate if we narrow this down to 3. We're already a third of the way done. ARPA's definitely number 1, and I even hesitate to rank these at the committee level. I would be more comfortable just communicating 3 to the executive committee, regardless of the ranking, unless, of course, the rest of the committee would like to do the ranking here. But I think for the sake of our discussion today, we should just identify 3 objectives and move forward from there. ARPA's one of them. From there, we have some consensus around the comp plan and the strat plan update. Supervisor Conway had brought it up, and I had also brought it up. I think that could be a priority that would warrant discussion. But again, that's one of those that sort of overshadows the entire county, and we're a part of that. So then if we were to agree to have that included as the second of 3, we have a third option, and now we have to figure out what that third option is. Some of the ideas that have been floated already, Supervisor Frick had mentioned the tax deed and property description backlog. I had mentioned the environmental repair fund, and then on top of that, I had mentioned the Fenwood Creek. So I would be willing to withdraw the ERF topic because that's so new and was just given to the administrator. So then we're down to the tax deed topic and then the Fenwood Creek. And that's where I think we'll have to have a discussion now. Supervisor Seefeld?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I do think the Fenwood Creek project would sit in with our third recommendation. I do agree with, the ARPA funds, that's number 1. But number 3, the Fenwood, we've been working on that for a long time, and I'd like to see keep it up as a good priority for us.
Okay, I've heard Supervisor Seefeld had provided some interest in the Fenwood Creek. This is what I have then. I have the ARPA funds, and let's do a ranking then. ARPA funds are numbered 1, 2. I would say the comp plan and the strat plan. And I think the third is Fenwood Creek. Okay, that sounds like consensus. Supervisor Conway?
Not to buck your system, but I would actually put the Fenwood as number 2, simply because all the committees are going to be saying comp plan, strategic plan. And yes, he's going to look at all of them. So
That's
I
a good
think having
point.
the Fenwood be up there would, like, float it in there a little bit better. That's all.
Sure. I think we've settled on 3, and now the question is of ranking. I guess in regards to that, I would actually like some input from staff now. So to Lori and Paul and anybody else here wishing to provide input, when you look at the administrator's work plan, what do you view as CPZ's priorities too? We're the oversight body, but we'd like to have your information as well.
We were trying to find out where is the actual Fenwood in? Oh, did you guys add it in, or?
I believe it's in there.
I guess when we reviewed it, we didn't see it. So
We are happy if you want to include it in there.
I know I saw it in my review. However, did you find it?
No.
Huh. Well, just give me one moment. ERF funding. Comp plan. Well then. I apologize. I must have been looking at the agenda and crossing in between the work plan and this too much. I apologize, everybody. That is on me. I do like that point, though, that it would be nice if it was in the plan to make that recommendation.
we're okay with adding it.
Yeah. I apologize. So in that case, in some ways, that makes this easier. So Supervisor Conway, to your point, we can't rank it any higher than number 2 because it's not rankable. And again, I apologize for providing that misdirection there. What that does mean, though, is that we have a third one that could take something in. That could be the facilities plan, the tax deed backlog. Those were the 2 that had been floated in addition to some of the other things, as well as the ERF. But again, I had recommended that cooling the discussions on ERF might be appropriate here because it's so new. We don't know that much. Well, we know a lot about it. We just don't, because it's so new, the discussions are so new, it might not be necessarily the highest priority. So, tax deed and facilities plan.
Supervisor Conway,
Yes, go ahead, Supervisor Conway.
could we not put it in as an item to be inserted into his work plan?
I believe that would require discussion at the executive committee level, and regardless, I don't think that would be appropriate to move on today due to the notice that we provided. It wouldn't be properly noticed if we were to take that action today. That is something we could discuss at a future ERC meeting, though.
And or if someone such as yourself is on the executive committee, could bring that up to them.
Sure, but I'd rather have the support from the ERC before I would bring that topic to the exec. Does that make sense?
No, no doubt.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, point well taken, Supervisor Conway. And speaking of which, your thoughts as the third, now that this third opportunity is open up between facilities and tax deed?
I would think facilities. We heard just at the last meeting, a couple of people mentioned, hey, we're getting, new land to add to a park. What are we doing with it? Well, we don't know for 5 years. I think that sort of priority would probably go a long way with public.
Okay, so that being said, ARPA, comp plan, and strat plan, facilities. I'm seeing heads that are nodding. Okay. Let me see how this was. All right. Given that I'm going to take this back to exec, and what I have here is ARPA is 1, 2 is comp plan and strat plan, and 3 is the facilities plan. I'd like a motion from this group to take these priorities to the executive committee. Yes, Supervisor Seefeld.
I'll make a motion that we forward this to take this to the executive committee, the ARPA fund, the
Comp plan and strat
comp
plan.
plans, and the
Facilities.
facility. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Supervisor Conway will second.
Thank you, Supervisor Conway. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we have 4D3, review and possible approval of updates to schedule of deposits regarding CPZ citation amounts.
I will take that. This is Paul Daigle speaking. Before you is some recommendations highlighted in yellow, and I'm recommending these to the committee because, as you recall, at the last county board meeting, we amended our ordinance for the animal waste and nutrient management ordinance for Marathon County. And in order to ensure that our schedule of deposits which are really what it would be, if someone violates these ordinances, what would be the possible fine for that offense. We're recommending this back to the committee, and then these numbers and amounts would coincide with the changes that were made in the ordinance. In addition to that, we're recommending a small change to the livestock facility license, changing to allow a little more flexibility in that as well. If you want me to go in depth on that, I'm happy to. If the committee's comfortable with reviewing what was in the packet and asking questions, I'll leave that up to the chair's discretion.
Thank you, Paul. Given that the amounts were in the packet ahead of time, and we still have a number of agenda items to get through here yet this afternoon or evening, are there any specific questions that the committee has regarding the amounts proposed from staff? Okay. Seeing none, I believe a motion to approve would be in order. Oh, Chair Gibbs.
Paul, just one quick question. On any forfeiture, does that include court costs or court costs in addition to the forfeiture listed?
So that's a good question. If you see, I have that broken down by individual offense. There would be a fine amount, and then the total forfeiture amount, which would include all court costs associated with that. So any citation that's written, it includes the total forfeiture on the citation.
So when, just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, Never mind. The first one that we come across on the draft proposed schedule shows a fine ranging from $10 to $500 and a forfeiture of $150.50 up to $767.50. So am I to understand that the court costs are the $140 if we levied a fine of $10 and the forfeiture was $150.15, the court costs are $140.15. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the committee or otherwise? All right,
Supervisor Conway?
go ahead, Supervisor Conway.
Sorry, is this something that we approve here, or does this get forwarded on to the full board?
I believe it stays here, Paul.
Yes, this stays here. This does not require full board action.
Then I'll make a motion to approve the scheduled deposit as drafted.
Motion is made. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Seefeld. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. 5, educational presentations, outcome monitoring reports, and committee discussion. 5A, department updates, conservation planning and zoning, parks, rec, and forestry. 1, introduction of Chad Harvey, land resources manager.
I'll take it. So I asked Paul if I should have put this here under announcements, and he said by putting it here, it means we can ask Shad questions. So, so I did want to introduce Shad Harvey. He's our new land resources manager. Shad grew up in Adams County and comes to us with a regulatory and environmental compliance background, most recently living in Colfax, and also is a UW Stevens Point grad. So we did want to welcome him as our newest member. He's already issuing zoning permits, learning everything about learning everything about zoning there is. So
Very good. Any questions for Shad?
anything else you want to share?
Yeah, if you want to say a few words, go right ahead.
Yeah, just say I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to the future and what this position brings.
Yeah, very good. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Wish you well. All right, moving on to 5A2, McDevco Pouts loan update.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to clarify. If the committee drops to 5, you're fine.
That's, yes, yep.
So if Mr. Frick had to leave, you still have a quorum?
Yep, I had counted at that point he had left, but thank you. All right, 5A2, McDevco Pouts loan update. I believe this was requested last month. What sort of an update do we have?
I can just give you a brief update. I think.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief because I think I'll tell you what our guidance is going to be. But I think there's been a couple questions from the committee over the last couple months in terms of has the McDevco loan program been used? Have there been inquiries? We were finally able to sit down with the new McDevco staff and talk about it. We did confirm we have given out 0 loans. On our side, so CPZ does the verification side in terms of verifying the system has failed. I think looking at our files, we have probably somewhere around 15, maybe even 20 verification letters we've issued to McDevco saying this person does in fact qualify as having a failed system that would be eligible for this loan. From what McDevco has told us, they've had several phone conversations with people who have gotten these letters, sat down with a few of them even. Some of the hangups seem to be around the adjusted gross income to qualify for the loan is too low, and the idea that they might not be able to borrow the entirety of the money they need to repair their system is also tends to be a hindrance for people. So I did speak with Administrator Leonard yesterday about this. We have some recommendations that we would like to bring forth in a future presentation to how to make this a better loan program. We feel this is still a very valuable program and needed in the county. We've had more requests about it in the last month or two than probably any time before. The Wisconsin Fund has stopped giving out money at this point, and I think our biggest revelation or understanding is that we need to do a few changes to the program to make it a better loan program and not have it mimic completely a grant program, which is how it was originally set up. So we'd like to come back with a presentation on how to do that. So.
Very good. Any questions for staff at this time? If not, the vision, and I remember when the EIF fund was sunset, and I probably told this group this already, but the idea was for those funds to be used to close out that fund that had provided a lot of opportunity for environmental projects in the county. So getting this money to a point where it actually starts to generate some positive impacts within this community, of course, would be fantastic. We'll look forward to next month. So
thanks.
Thank you for the update. All right, 5A3, update on Fenwood Creek funding requests. 5A3A, Senate Bill 968, Fenwood Creek Bill introduced at Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee. Paul, I believe you have an update for us.
Yes, I'd like to provide a quick update. And so to let you know, last Wednesday I had the honor of representing Marathon County in front of the Senate Natural Resources and Environment Committee. And according to the bill's sponsors that were present at the public hearing, Senator Bernier and Representative Rosar, they told me that the hearing could not have gone better. Numerous people weighed in favor of this. There was no opposition, myself included, and also accompanying was a member from the Old Plain Partnership for Integrated Conservation, Matt Omaken, who's both a farmer and a agricultural business owner out in the Old Plain. And in fact, I was notified from the senator that the chair of that committee, Senator Coles, was firmly against this proposal before the meeting and firmly in support of it after the meeting. And they're considering moving it to the executive. As you know, the legislature's winding down, and they're going to have an executive session, and they're considering adding it to that to expedite it. We would be very pleased if that happened. The Assembly has to decide to reconvene to take action. Otherwise, if that doesn't happen, there's a high possibility that it would be introduced in the next biennial budget for funding. So very good news. I can tell you the groups that are all registered in favor or provided letters of support or testified in person include Adventure Dairy Alliance, Wisconsin Agribusiness Association, Marathon County Farm Bureau Farmers Union, Grassworks Incorporated, Wisconsin Land and Water Association, River Alliance, Wisconsin Valley Improvement Company, Big Plain Citizen Organization, Matthew Omaken Short Lane, Sauk Soil and Water Improvement Group, Penton Well and Castle Rock Stewards, Wisconsin Green Fire, and Clean Wisconsin. And quite a broad spectrum of support, and I think that's really what swayed the chair of that committee. So, any questions on that?
That's incredible, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that's the best word to use to describe the situation. That's great. That's a great development with something that this committee's identified as a priority. And to play back to Supervisor Conway's point earlier, of course, at some point, if something is getting state support that's going to be done at the Marathon County level, is there a point where we need to have a discussion with our administrator what that work looks like? This case, if there's a development like this, I would 100% agree with Supervisor Conway. But are there any questions for Paul at this time? If not, Paul, Chair Gibbs.
Just one quick question, Paul. Any thoughts as to whether or not the Assembly is going to have a special session on it, or likelihood that it'll just carry over to the next session?
That seems to be a mystery. So I believe they will, because they have items on the Senate side that they feel need immediate action regarding floodplain and some other changes that are just necessary to make corrections in state law that are in error. So I'm hopeful, and I'm hopeful that this might get tagged to that.
All right. Well, thank you, Paul, for the update. It's great news. All right. 5A4, Outstanding Young Farmer Runner awarded to Mike and Gina Radetsky Colby, sponsored by Partnership for Progressive Agriculture, Vita Plus, Rural Mutual, Short Lane Ag Supply, and the O'Plain Partnership for Integrated Conservation.
So real briefly, I just wanted to take time to recognize and inform this committee that we just have this outstanding farm family out in Western Marathon County that were runners up to the state Outstanding Farmer Award, and quite high recognition. And again, the sponsors of that farmer as they went forward was the Epic Group and the Short Lane Ag business. And these individuals really highlight all the work we're trying to do out in the O'Plain and the Fenwood, and including all types of no-till and cover crops and managed grazing for a custom on their custom heifer operation.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I commend them, of course. Any questions? All right. Oh, thank you, Paul. It is good to see community work being done, and especially recognize the farmers that are doing it well. 5A5, 2021 County Forest Division Annual Report.
Long and on. This is Tom Loveland, the Forest Administrator.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, just briefly, this report closes the loop from the County Forest Work Plan that is required by state statute 2811. We do a work plan at the beginning of the year, and this is the annual report that sort of closes the loop, which is also a requirement through statute 2811. I presented this to the Forestry Rec Committee this afternoon, and they recommended forwarding it to the ERC committee. And I'm not going to go through the full report today. Hopefully, everybody can look at it. I'm here to answer any questions that the committee may have on the report, if there is any. And the plan is to distribute the report to all the county forest plan holders and the county board tomorrow, if this ERC committee approves.
I don't believe it's on the, does this require approval, Tom?
No, it's just for
Okay.
information only.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I just wanted to clarify that, the event it did. Okay. Any questions for Tom? If not, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
All right, 6, policy issues, discussions, and committee determination of the county board for its consideration. We have none. 7, next meeting date, April 5th, 2022, 3 p.m., assembly room, and future agenda items. A, committee members are asked to bring ideas for future discussion. To Supervisor Conway's point, we could have a discussion about the administrator work plan, whether or not to add the Fenwood Creek priority to the work plan next month. We will also have the presentation on the Pouts loan program, some amendments that can be made to that program. And that is everything that I've gleaned from the committee thus far for this meeting. 7B, announcements, requests, correspondence.
I have an announcement too.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Lauren.
I did want to take a minute to say thank you to Robert Hoffman. This is going to be his last ERC meeting. He has accepted a great new job with the Department of Natural Resources and will be relocating to Rhinelander. So he's been with us 3 years as a full-time employee, and I believe 6 months or a year as a volunteer before that. So he's been with us quite a while, and we're happy to send him on his next journey in life, wishing him luck, but he will be missed for sure. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you for stepping in after the Dom leaving to the next position as well. Being in that position with zoning just requires a lot of information and knowledge, and I can say that in the months you provided support for the position, you've done an outstanding job. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sure. And wish you well, of course. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So announcements, requests, correspondence, and I don't think we have anybody that necessarily does have opposition necessarily, but of course, good luck. This is the last meeting before the April elections. Enjoy the last few days for this term. The term goes really quick, and I can say that depending on what happens, of course, it's been an honor being your Environmental Resources Committee Chairman. I appreciate the work that this group has done, and for this group to create a environment where everybody feels comfortable offering their ideas. I would really like to take the opportunity to praise this group for the work they've done, and of course, to thank staff for the work that they've done this past term as well. All right.
By the way, you got one more meeting to chair.
We do? What is the? April. Here I was thinking I was going to get out of one more meeting. Guess I'll see y'all again next month. Well, thank you, Chair Gibbs. All right. That's all I've got. I can't believe I made that announcement without thinking that through, but regardless. Item 8. Come on, guys. All right. Motion by Supervisor Seefeld. Rodney, why don't you get it on one? I'll make a second. Sounds good. Motion by Seefeld, second by Roscoff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
This meeting is no longer being recorded.
Hey, I've had opposition twice in the last 8 years. You know, it's not, how do I say this? It's not anybody's preference